Hi, I'm Mohammadreza Behrouzi. We are proud of ourselves that you watch our videos and we can make a small contribution towards your knowledge improvements. These videos that we have uploaded on our website or on our YouTube channel consist of notes and real case examples from our last projects. Those projects were performed by a team of professionals and experts. Therefore, by watching these videos, you can gain tremendous amount of knowledge and experience by which you can design your process units, your plants with highest safety. You are our only sponsor. So if you enjoyed the video, at the end hit the like and subscribe so that you can get informed about our latest videos. In this episode, we're going to talk about one of the most important chemicals which is used for boiler systems, oxygen scavengers. At first, we're going to talk about why we use oxygen scavengers for boilers. If, as it is clear from its name, oxygen scavenger, if the purpose of this oxygen scavenger is the removal of oxygen, then we're going to talk about the fact that how oxygen enter the systems, how oxygen enter the water loop system. And if we don't use oxygen scavengers chemicals, what are the consequences and what are the major problems due to the presence of the oxygens in the water system? After that, we're going to discuss the most important types of oxygen scavengers which are prevalent, which are used in most applications. Then, based on some criteria, we're going to select the best type of oxygen scavenger for our applications. And by those criteria and tables, whether it's a consumptions or its performance or other criterion, you can select the best type of oxygen scavenger for your system. So at first I'm gonna start with the fact that why oxygen, why we have the oxygen and what are the sources of oxygens are, and then what are the resulting problem due to the presence of oxygen. Dissolve oxygen control. By the way, before starting these sessions, before starting these episodes, I wanna I wanna emphasize on this reference AWT, Association of Water Technology. This is one of the best references for chemicals. I've used it for many years, and it has been proven. Of course, it has proven itself in many industry, including oil and gas industry. So this excerpt is mainly taken from the AWT, and I highly recommend you going to that or downloading the AWT handbook and improve your knowledge not only in oxygen scavengers but also in other area of chemicals. Dissolved oxygen control. Dissolved oxygen can lead to severe corrosion in the economizer sections and in the boiler and condensate systems. In the feedwater systems, it will distribute to metal transports into the boiler where depositions can lead to under-deposit corrosion and long-term overheating. Dissolved oxygen enters the system via makeup water, which is often air-saturated, or leaks into the condenser or through pump fail. Oxygen enters the system from makeup water, cooling water leaks, condensate storage tanks, equilibration with the atmosphere, condensate storage tank equilibration with the atmosphere, pump seal leaks, systems that are frequently laid up or which fluctuate wildly in load may be more susceptible to air leakage. So, based on these sentences, I can say that oxygens enter the systems via cooling water leaks, condensate storage tanks, which are in contact with the atmosphere, palm seal leaks, and this might and those plants which experience some fluctuations in capacity and load might experience more oxygen entrance into their systems. The most common effect of dissolved oxygen is to increase the corrosion of feedwater heaters. Copper and iron oxides are formed within which break loose and travel to the boiler. These metal oxides deposit on the hottest part of the boiler tubes and create insulating deposits. Such insulating deposits increase the temperature gradient needed to provide a constant heat flux. The temperature rises on the tube wall and overheating may result. Over a long time, such overheating can lead to metal fatigue and failure. Copper deposits can also lead to galvanic corrosion of steel. Oxygen problems are especially severe when ammonia is present in significant quantities. In the presence of oxygen, ammonia is very corrosive to copper. Ammonia is used for feedwater pH adjustment. It can also be formed from the thermal breakdown of hydrazine, like the equation here. Hydrazine is breakdown. Hydrazine here breaks down and produces ammonia from hydrothermal breakdown of organic amines. Here, ammonia is produced. Ammonia cannot attack copper metal itself. It reacts only with the copper ions in the plus to oxidation state, cupric. In the feedwater loop, these will be in the form of cupric oxide and hydroxide with these formulations. The cupric state can only form if oxygen is present. So it is the combination of ammonia and oxygen that is aggressive to copper alloys. If oxygen is kept low by mechanical or chemical means, then ammonia will not be a problem for copper. So what it says, what does it say? It says that at first the dissolved oxygen increases the corrosion of some parts of the equipment. Then iron oxides are created. Iron oxides deposits sits on some parts of the equipment. On those parts, some insulating layers are produced. As a result of presence of those insulating layers, some gradients of temperatures is created, and because of those gradients of temperatures, overheating results. Over a long time, such overheating can lead to metal fatigue and equipment failure. Of course, here it says that oxygen problems become severe when there is ammonia in the systems. Ammonia can be found, there are many sources of ammonia. Sometimes, in some petrochemical plants, ammonia is used as the chemical in order to raise the pH of the systems. Sometimes ammonia is produced as a result of thermal breakdown of some chemicals or some such as hydrazine or organic amines. In any way, when we have ammonia and oxygen together, they form a kind of they form cupric oxide or hydroxide with these formulations alongside the presence of copper in the systems. The cupric acid can, as here, the cupric acid can only form if oxygen is present. So the presence of ammonia, oxygen, and copper can be aggressive and can destroy copper alloys. But remember, if we don't have adequate amount of oxygens in the systems, this reaction is not going to happen, and it's not going to have some negative impacts on the copper alloys. Therefore, if we use the best procedures to maintain the low level of oxygens in the system, all of these are going to be precluded from happening. Here we have methods for removal of dissolved oxygens. Two methods are available for removing dissolved oxygen from boiler water and steam systems: mechanical stripping, or sometimes we call it deaerations, and chemical oxygen scavengers. Oxygen scavengers are reducing agents that react with even the very low levels of oxygen left in the water by good deaerations. They are normally added to the storage section of the aerator to allow time for reaction before feedwater reaches the boiler. Low pressure boilers sometimes do not include mechanical deaerators. In these systems, oxygen scavengers are required to do the whole job of dissolved oxygen removal. Obviously, much larger dosages are required in this case. Before going to the different classes of different types of oxygen scavengers, I want to clarify these sentences and why and what these sentences mean. I have prepared a sketch here. As you can see, I want to right now, before going to the you know types of oxygen scavengers, I want to focus on this sketch. And this sketch, of course, is about from a scratch, from a start point where a petrochemical received DM water and to the point of production of to the point of steam generations. Of course, such a sketch is typical for all petrochemical plants. They all need to take some DM water from battery outside battery limits in order to produce steam. Therefore, regardless of the type of petrochemical plant, regardless of their productions or products, they all use the same procedure in order to produce a steam. In a typical plant, we are supposed to take some DM water outside of the battery limits. There are some pre-treatment companies in the regions that produce DM water. We receive DM water from those companies. Then, after entering the plant, it goes through the polishing units. In polishing units, there are some pre-filtration process and ion exchange reactors. In those filtration process and ion exchange reactors, some particles and uh, ions are absorbed by the ion exchange reactors. Therefore, it is free from those ions and particles. After passing through polishing units, it is pumped to the deaerator, where the most oxygen is separated from the main water stream. In the Deaerator, I'm gonna show you the picture, the actual picture of a Deaerator in a real plant just after finishing this sketch. Don't worry about this one. In the Deaerator, most oxygen is removed via mechanical stripping. But remember, not there are some parts still in the water which are not removed by mechanical stripping. Therefore, here we need to this from this point or to the deaerator itself, we need to add some chemicals, oxygen scavengers, to react with the remaining oxygens in order to maintain the low level of oxygens in the systems. After adding chemicals and reactions with the oxygens and having low amount of oxygen, it is called boiler feed water, and it can enter the boiler, and in the boiler this BFW or boiler feed water receives some heat influx, receives some heat from the boiler, and it starts to become vaporized, and after receiving an immense amount of heat, steam generates here, and steam generates, and this steam can be used for other purposes, such as a driver for a steam turbine, as a driver, as a energy giver for a steam turbine, and this steam turbine is going to be a driver for a compressor or other pumps. After this steam, after passing through these steam turbines and exchanging its energy, it is in the condensate phase, and of course it returns to the polishing unit. So in the polishing unit, alongside with the new DM water, both of them together pass through the filtration and ion exchange reactors, and those ions and in fact the particles are removed from them, and they again go to the deaerator to in order to for oxygen to be removed from the mainstream. And of course we have these loops continuously happening during the production of a petrochemical plant. And here is the deaerator itself. As you can see, for a real plant, here we have the DM water. As I said, DM water is passed from polishing unit, and it enters from above of the reactor, above of the deaerator to the deaerator. Here the DM water, it comes from the polishing unit, and it passes through control valve to control its flow. Then it passes and it enters the deaerator from the above, from the dome. This is called dome, and here we have packing. Then here we have the LP steam, low pressure steam. The low pressure steam is enters the deaerator from by some sparger here. There are some sparger here which distributes the steam throughout the whole length of the deaerator, and these steams try to saturate the water above itself, and after giving some of its energy to the water surrounding those spargers and distributors, it travels to the above point of to the upper point of the deaerator and goes to these sections. So it does two purposes. At first, it warms up, it heats up some of the water around itself, and also it travels to the upper part of the deaerator where they become in contact with the DM water, which is showered from above. In packing sections, the LP stream is contacted with the DM water, which is showered from above, and the LPS steam can help the DM water to remove the oxygen from the DM water in these sections. So the main purpose of this packing is to increase the surface area between the DM water and LPS stream so that the oxygen will be removed easily from the main stream. And here the LPS streams travels to the upper part of the dome here and can easily carry the oxygen with itself and discharge it to the atmosphere. So this is a procedure we call mechanical stripping because here the oxygen is stripped via the LPS stream easily and without much problem. But remember, not all of this oxygen is removed via mechanical stripping. And in order to remove all of the oxygens, in order to maintain the oxygens to the lowest point, to the lowest level, we have to add some chemicals such as oxygen scavengers in order to make sure that there is no amount of oxygens in the system. So here is the meaning of this sentence. The first method is mechanical stripping, which happens in the deaerator, and of course the second method, the additional methods. When we say the second method, it doesn't mean that you have to select either mechanical stripping or chemical oxygen scavengers. No, no, no. Both of them should be employed in order to remove oxygen, in order to make sure that there is no oxygen present in the system. So here, after passing the deaerations, we should add chemical oxygen scavenger. But where is the best point? Where is the best point for feeding the oxygen scavenger to the system? Here, there is a guidance. They are normally added in the storage section of the deaerator to allow time for reaction before the feed water reaches the boiler. As you can see in this plant, here you can see oxygen scavengers are added to 2 points. The first point is the storage section of the deaerator, as you can see here for yourself, and the second part, the second route is the outlet of the deaerator before the suction of the BFW pump. So the best points are here. Why? Because we want to give it some times to have to be able to react with the oxygens. Of course, we can add the chemicals, we can add the oxygen scavenger to the steam drum. But if I add the oxygen scavengers to the steam drum and the boiler, it's not going to have time to contact, it's not going to have time, adequate amount, sufficient time to react with the oxygens. So here before, entering the steam drum and boiler, I inject the chemical here so that the oxygen scavenger will have sufficient time to react with the oxygens in the piping. Oxygen scavengers fall into several classes. These include sulfites, ascorbates, hydrazines, hydroquinones, hydro hydroxylamines, and ketoxamines. Each of these is discussed in the following sections. Sulfite. Sulfites are used in lower pressure boilers. They are non-volatile, so add dissolved solids to the boiler. Sulfites are very reactive and can reduce oxygen to 5 ppb if used correctly. The reaction of sulfite with oxygen can be written as this one. Above 430 Fahrenheit, sulfite reacts with iron oxides in this way, sulfites with iron oxides, and creates a magnetic layer like this. This chemical is magnetic, an intermediate valence form of iron oxide that forms good protective oxide film (passive films) under boiler conditions. However, sulfite is not considered to be a good passivating agent because it doesn't passivate low-pressure boilers, where sulfite is most often used. Passivation can be accomplished in high-pressure boilers, but high dosage of sulfites are needed. So, the main purpose of these oxygen scavengers should serve two purposes. The first function is to remove oxygen, and the second one is to react with this species to create a magnetic passivating layer. A good species which is formed on the layer of the equipment which is called magnetic, and this is has some passivating properties in order to delay the corrosion of the equipment. Sulfite is commonly supplied as sodium sulfite with this formula, sodium bisulfite with this formula, ammonium sulfide with this formula, or sodium metabisulfite with this formula. All of these species hydrolyze, react with water and at the usual boiler water pH range, the sulfite ion is the active species present. Sulfite, sodium sulfite can decompose to sulfur dioxide and hydrogen sulfide in the boiler. For this reason, the use of sulfite is limited to boilers under 900 psi gauge. The feed rate should be as shown in table 3.5 divided by the boiler cycles. Up to 600 psij, residuals of 5 to 50 ppm can be used. Above 600 psij, 5 to 20 ppm is the safe limit. Avoid large overfeeds. Here we have sulfite feed requirements for different types of sulfites. As you can see here, how much is required in order to have that low much amount of oxygens in the systems. Although sulfite reacts slowly with oxygen at room temperatures, it reacts very quickly at elevated temperatures. Also, the presence of minute quantities of oxidizable metal ions like cobalt will greatly accelerate the rate of reaction with oxygen. Many water treatment suppliers supply catalyzed sulfite products usually containing cobalt. As discussed above, sulfite doesn't passivate metal surface well and should not be used for this purpose. So here, let's wrap it up, let's summarize it. Sulfites are used mostly in low pressure boilers. They are non-volatile and they are very active, especially during high temperatures. And these are the reactions. As I said, the main one of the resultants of these reactions of this magnetic layer, which acts as passivating layer, and of course they produce some passivation here like this one, but they are not normally known for passivative as a passivating agent, because the amount of production of this layer is not that much compared to other oxygen scavengers. I mean other scavengers can produce more of this layer, more of this species, therefore they can serve more as passivating agent. And of course here we have different types of sulfites, four types of sulfites, and the rate of the consumption rate of each of them required in order to have the oxygen to the 5 ppb here, to lower the oxygen to 5 ppb. And of course we said that some manufacturers supply catalyzed sulfite products containing cobalt, which can in fact accelerate the rate of reaction with oxygen. The next type of the next oxygen scavenger is hydrazine. Hydrazine is a very common oxygen scavenger. It's an inorganic reducing agent of great power. However, the reaction rate of hydrazine with dissolved oxygen is slower than the sulfite reaction. For this reason, plus difficulties in handling, hydrazine is used most often in high pressure boilers. Reaction of hydrazine with oxygen is like this. At temperatures greater than 250 Fahrenheit, hydrazine reacts with metal oxides like this one. Ferric oxide is reduced to the familiar black protecting magnetic field, and cupric oxide is reduced to red cuprous oxides. This reaction passivate or protect the metal surface in the boiler so that hydrazide is used as a passivating agent as well as an oxygen scavenger. Here, as you can see, this species magnetic form is produced and can act as passivating agent in order to protect the equipment from or delay the equipment protect the equipment from corrosion or at least delay the corrosion process. Feed rates: hydrazine decomposes in boiler water at 400 to 600 Fahrenheit, like this one, and it decomposes to ammonia and nitrogen. Feed rates of about 5 times stoichiometrics are required for good oxygen scavenging. For every ppm of oxygen feed, about 5 ppm of hydrazine is required. The excess will break down to ammonia in the boiler and may cause problem in copper condensate system unless they are air-free. As I said, if the it means this sentence means that if we use more ammonia which is required, more ammonia which is more than required, the excess ammonia might break down the excess. If we use more hydrazine which is more than required, the excess hydrazine might break down to ammonia, and if there is some levels of oxygen in the system, and if we have some metals, we have some parts of equipment which is constructed from copper, this loops is created, and there might and ammonia and oxygen might sound aggressive to the copper alloys, and they might destroy the copper alloys. Hydrazine is typically supplied as a 35% solution in water. Hydrazine is listed as a carcinogenic carcinogenic compound and must be handled with proper precautions. It means that those people who are responsible for loading the hydrazines in the tank, they might suffer some illnesses, some serious illnesses from handling hydrazine. Therefore, some proper precautions should be performed. So, in order to summarize it, we know that hydrazine is a good oxygen scavenger. It does two functions. The first function is to remove oxygens, and the second one, it acts as passivating agent, as a good passivating agent in fact. And here we should be careful with the feed rate of hydrazines, because the excess amount of hydrazine might cause some problems and have some destructive impacts on copper alloys as stated here. We know that it is supplied to the market by 35% solution in water, and of course the main drawback of hydrazine is its environmental impact and its impact on the health of personnel. because persons might suffer from serious illness in the long run. Then we have carbohydrazides. Carbohydrazide is a derivative of hydrazine. It reacts readily with oxygen with this formulation. Carbohydrazides first break down to hydrazine and carbon dioxide and then decomposes to ammonia and nitrogen. Reduction of metal oxides, like this one, as you can see for yourself. This is carbon carbohydrates, and when some reduction of metal oxide happens here, and this magnetic layer is formed. Thus, the passivating properties of carbohydrates are similar to hydrazines. However, the produced carbon dioxide adds to the potential for acidic condensate and must be taken into account. It says that since it produces some carbon dioxides, it might lower the pH of the system. Therefore, you might need to add some more amounts of neutralizing amines in order to neutralize the carbon dioxides and protect the system from becoming acidic. The feed rate is the same as for hydrazines, about 2.5 times the stoichiometric, or about 5.6 ppm per ppm of oxygens. Hydroquinone is a powerful reducing agent scavenger. Its reaction with oxygen is like the following equation. Hydroquinone is also a good passivation agent for both steel and copper. The feed rate of hydroquinone for oxygen scavenging is approximately 3 to 7 ppm per ppm of oxygen. Hydroquinone is more reactive than other oxygen scavengers and scavenges effectively at temperatures below 180 Fahrenheit. Remember, for other uh, oxygen scavengers, the temperature should be high enough to for the reaction to proceed. Hydroquinone is a very toxic and must be handled in a well-ventilated area. For this reason, it is rarely used in HVAC systems. DEHA. The DEHA mainly are also used effectively for oxygen control. Reaction with oxygens is like below. The reaction product, acetic acid, is neutralized to form acetate ions with hydroxides in the boiler. And its reaction with metal oxide is like here. There has passivating properties as shown by these equations. Of course, the most important species is this one, which determines the passivating properties of oxygen scavenger, but it is less effective for that purpose than hydrazine and hydroquinone. DEHA breaks down above 300 psi gauge to form a small amount of ammonia plus organic acid and carbon dioxide. The stoichiometric rate is 1.2 ppm per ppm of oxygen. Feed at 6 ppm, a 5 to 1 ratio stoichiometry excess. There is an amine and is sometimes used to neutralize carbon dioxide in condensate as well as to scavenge oxygen. So there are here serves three purposes, serves three functions. The first function acts as scavenging oxygen. The second function is acts as passivating agent, and the third function sometimes helps other neutralizing amine in order to neutralize carbon dioxide and raise the pH in the system. Hi, I'm Mohammadreza Behrouzi. the manager of Educational Institute for Equipment and Process Design. I hope that you have enjoyed every moment of this video. I highly recommend you watching videos instructing PSVs and flare package from our website or through our YouTube channel. By watching these videos, you become a professional in design of various types of PSVs. Furthermore, you will learn how to use API standards in conjunction with Aspen FlareNet and FlareSim softwares to size, flare network, and assess thermal radiation of your package. And the last oxygen scavenger I want to talk about in this episode is Ketoxim, or otherwise known as MECO. MECO is another scavenger not as widely used. It reacts with oxygens in this way, and its reaction with metal oxides is based on these equations. MECO also breaks down to ammonia and organic acids above 1800 psi gauge, and at low pressure, if a large excess is fed to the boiler. Feed rate, the stoichiometric rate is 4.7 ppm per ppm of oxygen. Feed normally at 5 times the stoichiometric rate. Here is the table, a good table, and I love this table. I have used this table in the past. This table summarizes all we have talked about. Summarizes the oxygen scavengers types, their operating pressures, and the ppm of the required ppm of each of them for a boiler system, for water systems. uh, at first we talked about, as you can see here, we talked about sulfites, then we talked about hydrazine, then carbohydrazide, hydroquinone, deha, and meco. And of course, as you can see here, the operating pressure of sulfite is mostly between 0 to 6 to maximum 600 psi gauge. And as we saw above in one of the in the first paragraph of sulfite, it is mostly used for low pressure boilers. Then we have hydrazine. The operating pressure is between 600 psi to 2500 psi. Then we have carbohydrazide with the same operating pressure. Then we have hydroquinone. The operating pressure starts from 300 to 2500 psi. Then we have DEHA with this operating pressure and MECO with this operating pressure. And of course, the required ppm of each of them is written down here. Sulfite with this 6 to 8 ppm plus 20 ppm residual. Hydrazine 5 ppm. Carbohydrazide, as we read the statement that there is no that much difference between hydrazine and carbohydrazide consumptions. And hydroquinone is 3 to 7 ppm, DEHA is 6 ppm, and MECO is 25 ppm. But which of these is suitable for my application? Based on which kind of criterion I should decide whether I should select hydrazine or DEHA for my application. I've seen, based on my experiences, I've seen some petrochemical use hydrazine, some petrochemical use carbohydrazide, and some use DEHA. So what I'm trying to state, among all of this, Three, of course, sulfite is used, meco is used, but among all of these oxygen scavengers that have been listed here, the carbohydrates and hydrazine are used mostly, and are it has become a common practice to use them as the oxygen scavenger in water systems. So if you want to select a good chemical for your applications, you are ought to you ought to select between these options. But among these options, there are other parameters such as the operating pressure of your steam drum. If the operating pressure of the steam drum is, for instance, 90 bar gauge, you are supposed to use, for instance, carbohydrazide instead of sulfite, because sulfite is suitable for low pressure steam, for low pressure steam drums. You know, I want to talk about one of my experiences, or one of my first-hand experience. During the start of petrochemical plants, process engineering department is supposed to perform a field trial or test run, whatever you want to call it. In that field test, uh, some manufacturers of chemicals come into the plant. They provide the process engineering department their chemicals, and process engineering departments, the process engineers, in fact, use those chemicals, each of these chemicals, for about 2 months or 1 month, and test them, and register, or let's say fill in some information about their consumptions, about their performances on the log sheet for about 1 month or 2 months, and at the end of the field test, the best manufacturer, the best product of manufacturers in terms of consumptions, in terms of performance, is selected. I've done this for all of my chemicals in my plants. In the plant I work for about boiler chemicals, for cooling water systems, 7 types of, in fact, overall, about 9 types of chemicals are used in my plant, and I've done the field tests for all of them. And of course, one of these field tests can, can say one of these field tests was about oxygen scavenger selections. you know Before starting, in fact, my field tests, I used to utilize hydrogen as, the oxygen scavenger for my systems. uh, of course, as I said, hydrazine serves two functions. The first function is scavenging oxygen, and the second function is passive. It's being passivating agent, the creation of magnetic layer, and of course, based on many experiences and studies on laboratories, hydrazine has proved itself as a good passivating agent. So we were using hydrazine for about 1 year, but because of the in fact but I replaced it with, to be honest, with Daha. Because of, why I changed it, I replaced it, I made such decisions because, as I mentioned, unfortunately, hydrazine can have some impacts on the environment and the personal health, because in the long term, the personnel who are exposed to the hydrazines excessively might suffer from cancer, might suffer from some serious illness resulting from exposure to these hydrazines. So, therefore, because of these main reasons, we changed it to DHA. And these days, And these days, we use Deha as the oxygen scavengers. It has been about 2 years that we have used Deha for such purpose. Because when we've changed it to Deha, we thought that Deha is a good oxygen scavenger, and of course it is a good passivating agent, and of course it helps the neutralizing amine in order to reduce the consumption of neutralizing amine, because as we stated here earlier, there is an amine alongside is being called as an oxygen scavenger. It is also called an amine and is sometimes used to neutralize carbon dioxide in condensate as well as to scavenge oxygen. So we thought that, yeah, it's a good choice to use this because it is a good oxygen scavenger, it is a good passivating agent, and of course it can help us to neutralize some carbon dioxide. But the problem with there is that of course we haven't seen any kind of problems, we haven't identified or any uh, problems with Deha, but we have been trying to change to replace it, and of course in fact we have some plans to replace it with carbohydrates, because as you can see here, there is more suitable for low pressure steam drums. In our plants, we have two steam drums. One of these operating at about 1,400 psi gauge, and another one is operating at about 800 about 600 psi gauge. And of course, uh, this why we use the hub for that high pressure steam. Of course the hub for is we have two, as I stated, is good. We have two steam drums. One of them is low pressure steam drum, another one is a high pressure steam drums. For that low pressure drum, no problem is gonna happen, because here according to this document, it is good, it is suitable for low pressure steam drum. But how about high pressure steam drums? We have, in fact, the reason why we used it for high pressure syndrome, we have seen some experiences in the other plants that they had been used for high pressure syndromes and no problems. Over 10 years or sometime over 15 years have been detected. And because of those experiences, and of course because of other documents, we and because of when we were consulting to other manufacturers, they guaranteed that this is not going to be a problem because of high quality data for our systems. And of course we use data for our systems, and fortunately no problems have create have come up so far. But in order to make sure that in terms of performance, in terms of passivating agent, in terms of oxygen level in the system, it has been really great, because we have laboratory tests, we have field tests, we have conduct this kind of laboratory tests daily, in night shift, in daytime, and in all of these situations, when while using Deha as an oxygen scavenger, the level of oxygen has been really extremely low, and we have been extremely satisfied with the performance of the hub. But in order to make sure, in order to go according to this kind of documents and criteria, or let's say this kind of international standards, uh, we have some plans to change it to carbohydrates, because carbohydrates, as you can see here, is suitable for higher pressure. And of course for higher pressure, as you can see here, and it has good passivating age, it has good passivating properties, it's a good oxygen scavengers. And as you can see, there is not going to be that much difference between the consumption rate of carbohydrates and the here, as you can see. And of course I've seen the trend in the nearby companies that they use carbohydrates, and they are extremely satisfied with its performance. So for your application, if you want to select the best type of oxygen scavenger for your applications, at first you should look at the three parameters. operating pressure of your steam drum. You have one steam drum, two steam drums, three steam drums. It depends on the license, it depends on the design of your process units. If, for instance, the operating pressure of the steam drums is lower than, for instance, 600 psi, look for oxygen scavenger, which are more suitable for such operating pressures. If it is called high pressure steam drum, therefore you are supposed to select this kind of oxygen scavenger. Remember, in order to comply with environmental standards, you are not supposed to use hydrazines as a oxygen scavenger, because it might have some detrimental impacts on the personal safety and personal health. And the third factor is the consumption rate. If you want to optimize the consumption rate of your oxygen scavenger, or let's say yearly consumption of oxygen scavenger, you should look at this table and calculate which one is the best for you. So three parameters: operating pressure of your steam drum, environmental factor, whether it can cause some cancer or can cause some health issues for your personal, and the third one is the consumption rates. For instance, I want to replace the DHA with the carbohydrates because of two reasons. First, I want to make sure the since one of my steam drums is operating at high pressure, I want to make sure that at high pressures there is no breakdown of oxygen scavenger, but in the long run, for instance. But this might happen for the hub because it is not suitable for high pressure steam. The second reason is that I can justify my replacement. How? The consumption rate is not, there is no that much difference between the consumption rate of the carbohydrazide and DHA. In fact, at some point I might be able even to optimize the consumption rate, and in fact reduce the cost of chemicals used for removal of oxygens. So it depends on your plan. It depends on these three parameters. Use this table as general guidelines, and of course all of these oxygen scavengers are listed here in order to select the best type of oxygen scavenger for your unit. I hope that you have enjoyed every moment of this episode. This is the end of our episodes about oxygen scavengers, and I hope that you will be able to use this all of this material and instructions in order for your applications to select the best type of oxygen scavenger for your applications. And I wish you a good day and enjoy your life.